Is the mom group that you're currently in for pregnancy and birth going to talk you into an induction, a C-section, discourage your VBAC, or otherwise make you feel like what you're wanting in your birth isn't what you should be doing because it's unsafe, or that you're a bad mom, or any number of things that's going to basically lead to more birth trauma? Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to tell you a quick story here. Okay? When I first met Jenny, this is how I met her. She went into what we now call the mom hive, which is our term for mom groups that are unsupportive. And I'm going to tell you today, if you follow along with what I'm going to be teaching, how to avoid these groups, how to recognize if a group is actually unsafe for you in planning your birth, or whether or not, like, there's this whole idea of you need to have a safe space, right? So one of my pillars, of course, is you need to have the right environment. And this also contributes to the mom group. I talk about this in my book, Your Empowered Birth, about how you need to have the right environment. But what does that actually look like? Well, there's two different kinds of mom groups where they say that they're unsafe. And I want to really get that distinction. And what Jenny was in an unsafe mom group. This was a local group through our community and where we were living at the time. And she had asked this simple question: where can I find support for this traumatic birth? She basically wanted a place where she could bitch and vent and get pissed off about what happened to her during her birth. And she wanted it to be a safe space. And when I saw that, I knew that what she was going to be walking into was going to be a whole bunch of moms defending the doctors in that area. They were going to say, well, maybe because you had high blood pressure and everything, you needed to have that C-section and you should just be okay with it. You should just get over it. And I knew, it's like, she's had enough trauma. She doesn't need to hear that. That is a unsafe space. However, there's also the unsafe space. And this is the second story I want to share. It just recently happened. I'm part of a group, I'm not going to name names, but this group is very natural birth supportive. We really try to get as much information out there. And because people keep falling into those typical natural birth traps, especially in hospital settings that lead to more trauma and more intervention than is what actually is necessary. And there's a lot of midwives in this group. There's a lot of nurses and doulas who understand the physiological birth model. I love it for that. But every once in a while, we get those people in the group who don't understand this. And they say things like, well, I need to have a C-section. My doctor says that I'm not allowed to go past 38 weeks. Red flag, number one. Well, I have gestational diabetes, so my doctor says I'm not allowed to go past 38 weeks. Again, red flag. Well, my doctor says it's too dangerous for me to go for a VBAC, so I'm just going to listen to my doctor. Again, red flag. Now, maybe if she listens to her intuition, it says that this is something that she needs. However, if you don't have all of the information and your doctor is not telling you all the information, mom groups can be really helpful. When you have the right environment, which is what I always say you need to have, especially in the mom groups, what this does is two things. First of all, the right mom group is not just going to sit there and support whatever decision you want to make. Okay? That is not a safe space. This is the same thing with a really good coach or a really good doula. They are not going to just support whatever decision you want to make. The ones that are truly the right support for you and the right environment for you are the ones who are also going to see the pitfalls of the choices that you're going to make, and they're not going to shy away from it. So if they say, oh yeah, no, a C-section is totally great for you, you've chosen, so it's good. But you don't have all of the information that you need. Like, this mom did not know that my friend Jenny had gestational diabetes, chronic high blood pressure, 41 years old, previous history of preeclampsia, and she ended up having a completely unassisted natural birth in the hospital, a VBAC, and nobody touched her. Wouldn't have heard that story anywhere. Like, that's something that I know personally, and I shared that. And I also shared the story of Wendy, because she's like, well, I'm not allowed to go past 38 weeks because I have gestational diabetes. Well, my friend Wendy had 3 previous C-sections, went to 41 weeks and 5 days. She was higher body mass index. She was too old, too fat, had 3 C-sections, and had a VBAC. So saying that, oh, well, it would be either this or I'd have to induce, again, not telling you the whole information. When you're in a mom group that happens to support you truly, they want you to have that experience that they can tell that you're kind of gaslighting yourself. I'll share another time what I mean by that, and it's under the lens of, am I really okay with this, or am I just pretending to be okay? Which I talk about inside chapter 4 of my book, Your Empowered Birth, or maybe it was chapter 3. It's the harsh lesson chapter where I was pretending to be okay. So the problem is that when you say things like, I'm trying to be okay with this C-section that my doctor says I have to have, and she's listing the reasons that we know are not evidence-based. We know it's bullshit. Like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. We knew it was absolute bullshit. We're like, I'm calling bullshit. I'm going to point out to you that your care provider is being a clown right now and telling you things that are just going to lead you down to this path that we know you don't actually want it. We know you don't actually want this C-section. You wouldn't be here trying to be okay with it and trying to find things that make you okay with it if you were actually okay with it. You wouldn't be doubting yourself right now and doubting that this was the right path if you were actually okay with it. You're trying to be okay with it because you're scared. And I'm going to tell you that actually this thing that you want is actually possible. But, you know, it's your choice at the end of the day whether you want to go off and do that or if you want to stick with what your doctor says. But to just say, oh yeah, your doctor's totally right. No. A good coach, a good doula, a good childbirth educator, a good partner even is not going to just tell you everything that you just want to hear all the time. In fact, in relationships, when you recognize this, and this is what my mentor Annie Lala says, she says, like, your partner is not always just going to cheer you on and let you just be your small self. They're going to also be like, honey, I see you bigger than what you're being right now. And they do it in a loving and compassionate way. And this is how I basically help my clients, because if they're telling me, oh, well, I guess I'm just going to give up and I'm just going to do this thing. I'm just going to agree to this vaginal exam, or I'm just going to agree to this test just to make everybody feel better. I will be the first one to basically call it out, and I'll be like, okay, do you really want this? Well, no, I just think I have to have this. Well, you don't, okay? So I'm not going to let you stay small here. I am going to love you into your greatness. So that's one thing about me is I put the stick in fur, but I am going to sometimes nudge you with it. It's like when your child runs into oncoming traffic. Are you going to go, sweetie, we really can't run into oncoming traffic because a car's going to hit us? No, your kid's running right into the street, about to hit that, get hit by that bus or that truck. You're going to be like, stop! You're going to grab that child. You're going to pull that child back onto the street where it's safe, right? So this is the difference between a mom group that is swarming on you because they really want to give you as much information as possible before you go and get hit by that truck, versus the mom group that's shaming you and saying, you know, a healthy baby is all that matters. You know, you should really just listen to your doctor. You know that woman that just said that thing to you about how you don't actually have to listen to your doctor? She's wrong. And I'm going to tell you the same thing that your doctor's probably telling you. And I'm going to then go and attack this mom who's saying this, or this doula or this midwife, and say, you're not her doctor, so you shouldn't say that. And then we have the infighting. But it is still a safe space. And that's the difference, is that it's still a safe space. If the admins of the group are recognizing that actually this is factual information, they happen to be doulas and midwives, and they're running that group basically to get the right education, then they're going to basically say, you know what, I'm going to allow this. And if she leaves, that's okay. She's not ready to hear that information. But I'm going to allow that to happen because I know that it's for a greater purpose, versus the ones that are running the group because they're just trying to sell their latest thing. Like, there's some parent groups out there that were just there to sell like baby gear, and they don't like that because then other people are like, oh, you're challenging the status quo. So you want a mom group that, 1, challenges the status quo. 2, you want a mom group where the doulas and midwives and nurses in there are not going to perpetuate the medical birth model, but instead are going to be like, you know what, that's not evidence-based. You know what, your doctor is actually feeding you a line of bullshit. You know what, you actually can have this. I've supported clients with this, and here's some information. You can have those people in the group, the moms who are like, you know what, I did that exact thing that you're about to do, and I regret it, and I need to tell you just how awful it is, and I'm coming from a place of love and compassion, but don't do this thing, because you're really going to regret it, and I can see already that you're going to regret it, and yeah, you're not hearing what you want to hear. You're not hearing, oh yeah, your doctor's right. Here's the thing that you wanted, which is how to be okay with your C-section. No, you're hearing the information you really need to hear. You're hearing the information that's going to make you think. Remember, I also say that you're being taught what to think, not how to think in the medical system and in our birth culture. Well, you really need to know how to think. And in order to know how to think, you need to have all of the information. So one of my 5 pillars of empowered birth, of course, you need to get past your fear. So you need to have the right mindset. That means you have to be grounded enough in yourself that when you hear that information coming in, that is, maybe it's not exactly what you wanted to hear. Maybe it's something that makes you question, just what the hell is my doctor telling me? What the hell is my midwife telling me? Is this actually true? Or is this a line of bullshit? What does my intuition say? And you start to question, that's a good thing. Okay? You want to question. Never, ever blindly trust anyone other than your own intuition. You can take everybody's information and you need to filter it through your own intuition. I don't even want you to take all of the information that I feed you and say, well, Carly said this, so I have to do it exactly the same way. No. In fact, my clients, oftentimes, I give them a little bit of information. They go beyond me, or they find their own way through it, and they do something that works for them that's better. And it may not have been exactly what I would have done, but that's okay. That's their path. So again, if you're following me and you're just taking meticulous notes and being like, yeah, Carly said to do this. Carly said to do this. I have to do it exactly the way Carly says it, or it's not going to work. No. I want you to take the information from me and from other birth influencers that you're following. And I have a whole bunch of resources in the back of my book, Your Empowered Birth, on birth influencers that I follow. You can also just look at who I'm following to see where I'm getting a lot of other little tidbits of information from. We say all the same things. We say them in our own unique ways. But if I really resonate with you, I want you to know I'm not the voice that I want to be in your head. Like, I don't want my voice in your head. I want your voice in your head. Okay? So that's number 1. You're in the mom groups. You're getting information. It's not be all, end all. This is the only way you can do it. You need to be in a mom group that has enough diverse information and enough compassion so that you're not just hearing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and not getting what you really want. Which is why, again, you do not want to go with the mainstream mom groups, because the mainstream mom groups, it's all going to be like, oh yeah, my doctor says I have to induce it this time. Oh yeah, my doctor says I can't have a VBAC either. I need to have a C-section. And there's very few moms who will actually raise their hand and say, I didn't do that test. I didn't do that intervention. I won't induce. They'll have to make me birth. I would sooner birth under a tree than go to that hospital. There's no freaking way I would go there. Because a lot of them are too afraid to speak up. When you've got the majority and then you've got 1 or 2 dissenters in that, there's that fear of ostracism and being attacked by the group. That's the mom hive swarming to sting you and make you feel like crap. I mean, I get that all the time, and I just learned to deal with it because I'm used to it. I was the outspoken kid in school, so I was used to being ostracized by the group. I was used to being called weird and not following the crowd. So for me to speak up, I know that there's probably at least like 20% of the moms that are just lurking that are thinking that same question. Do I really have to do that test? Do I really have to have that C-section? Do I really have to have this induction? Are these really the only options that I have? Do I really have to be okay with this thing that I'm really not okay with deep down? Do I really have to just accept that a healthy baby is all that matters and that my own feelings about this, I can't trust them? Or am I going to see something from somebody who says, you know what you're feeling right now is exactly valid, and here's information, and I am okay with getting stung by all of these wasps in order for you to be able to escape. So I will go and stand in front of the hornet's nest for you so that you can get to freedom. That's basically what I'll stand for in those mom groups. And I've done it so many times, and I get attacked all the time. But if it means that you're going to be safe, then I'll take that for you. I just won't stand in front of a real hornet's nest because I've already been stung by a wasp and it wasn't fun and I didn't enjoy that. But in terms of the medical system and our birth culture, I'll do that for you. The next thing, of course, is you need to know the right education. If you're in the mom groups and you're getting the wrong education, outside of that mindset of fear, if you don't have that fear coming in from all sides of you and you do have people saying the opposite to be able to lift you up, the next step, of course, is having that right education to recognize that you've got those resources. Obviously, the right environment is within those groups. It's like, do I feel safe here? And not, do I feel safe and not, are my points all validated all the time, and am I just going to hear whatever I want to hear? But is this going to also push me to grow? So the best environment is the one that also pushes you to grow. I have a group coaching program that I'm in, and it's a very tight-knit group, and it's elevating us to the higher levels. And there are some times when my mentors and my fellow peers will call me out on my stuff. And they will say, no, you're not that person. You're not going to be small here. You're going to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you're going to go for what you really want. Because if you keep staying here, you're just going to get more of the same. And so a good mom group is also going to be like, no, you don't actually want that induction. I can see you don't want that induction. And trust me, you don't actually want that induction because I had one and it sucked. And I know what's going to happen. And maybe you'll come out unscathed, but more likely you're going to get screwed over. And I'm not going to let that happen to you because I care about you. Even though you're a stranger on the internet, I still care. I still have that compassion. And I'm going to give you information, and I'm going to push you just a little bit outside your comfort zone. Maybe you have to tell your care provider no. Maybe that's really confronting to you. Maybe you have to have that conversation with your partner that you've been putting off and say, you know what? I don't actually want to go to the hospital. I want to have a home birth. I'm going to push you into that. Maybe it's, you know what? This fear that you have, you really need to tackle it, because if you don't tackle that fear, if you don't conquer it before labor, you're going to get pushed into that C-section you don't want. You know what? Maybe you need to do a little bit more research on this, because I have evidence that's to the contrary to what you're being told, and this might actually lead you to getting what you want. You know what? That hospital that you're going to, I'm in the same community you're in. I can tell you right now, that hospital is the absolute worst. They wouldn't know a physiological birth if it hit them in the head. So don't go there. Or you know what? We had that doctor. That doctor was absolutely a nightmare. They were tapping their foot at the end of my bed, waiting to call in a C-section. There's no freaking way that I would ever trust that doctor. Don't go to that doctor. That's what you want. You want people who are going to push you out of your comfort zone and also love you. Finally, of course, with the right facilitators, you need to have admins who are not going to censor the freaking group. So the groups that I'm the most active in, I'm friends with the admins. The admins actually love what I'm sharing because they know what it's going to do for people. And yeah, some don't like it. Some people who come into these groups, they don't know what to expect in that environment. And they're like, but you're going against the medical system. And we can't go against the medical system. We don't know their medical history. How can we do this? Well, guess what? Do you think the doctors are going to say anything? No, they're not going to say anything. If somebody is actually bullshitting you and trying to push you into a direction you don't actually want to go in, they've got an agenda. So obviously, yeah, we're not going to perpetuate what the medical system wants to do. So again, you need to have the right facilitators of that group. You need to have people in that group who are able to give you that right education. This is why I love groups where there's lots of doulas and lots of midwives. I even built this inside my own empowered birth community, but it's not super active right now. I mostly just use my social media channels. You can always reach out to me on social media, send me messages. I'll talk to you. I'll help you. I'll give you resources. There's so many other mom groups that I'm active in that I don't need to be super, super active in my own anymore. So, I mean, if you want to know some of the best groups, just reach out to me and I'll tell you them. And I will totally plug those groups because they're great. And I mean, I'm already in them anyway, so you can always tag me and ask me a question in them. But you need to have that. And the right support, of course, you've got to have the moms that are cheering you on. You've got to have the moms that aren't going to just try to get you to do the same thing that they did so that they can feel comfortable. But the moms that are like, awesome, I really wish I could have had that VBAC. It didn't go for me, but I'm so happy that you are going for it because I can feel like I'm healing by watching your story. I mean, half the time when I'm coaching my clients, I can also recognize how powerful it is for me because I can't birth multiple children for the rest of my life, but I can birth these families and this legacy by helping other mothers go beyond what I could do with my own births. And you can do the same. So this is what the right support really does. And again, I talk about this inside my book, Your Empowered Birth. I'm probably going to write more in the future, probably going to create programs and things. I had a group program at one point, and I can just tell you the right support really does make all of the difference. Because when we had that small intimate container of only 4 moms, it was me, Jenny, it was Rebecca, and it was Lisa. And we were all together in this little incubator and we were supporting each other. And as Rebecca was going to get her VBAC after 2 C-sections, and it was unassisted at home, everybody was cheering her on. Lisa wasn't so lucky because she didn't have the right support of her partner and her mother. They ended up pushing her into going to the hospital where she did get a C-section. But we loved her and supported her afterwards, and she managed to heal her birth trauma so much faster than if she was doing it on her own. We were able to get her a postpartum doula right away. And because of that, she is thriving now. She is doing her own thing. She's building businesses for herself. Her son is also doing his own thing with his baking. So like her little boy is actually doing amazing things, and she's just so empowered. And her marriage is better too. And she's really taking charge of her health. And for Lisa, like it's just been so powerful for her to also support Rebecca and Jenny. And we were able to cheer Jenny on when she had her baby last year. So even after that, we still had that incubator of support. So that's why the mom groups are really crucial. And you cannot just hang out in any simple mom group. Just because it says natural birth doesn't mean it's natural birth. Sometimes it's natural birth perpetuated by the birth culture that's going to feed you into the natural birth traps. If you want to know the natural birth traps, go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com. I give you the list of 20 of them. And the link's in the bio, by the way. And if you want my book, Your Empowered Birth, it is available on Amazon. All right, so that's what I have for you on mom groups. Again, this is going to tie into if you want to get the birth that's true natural birth and not fall into all of these traps and not end up with a C-section or an induction that you really don't want, then you need to know that at the end of the day, it's all about having the groups with the right mindset and helping you get past your fears and helping push you into your greatness. It's all about having that right information and education, not getting fed the same perpetual things over and over again that are going to lead to you agreeing to that induction and C-section. Because if you say, well, my care provider says I'm not allowed to go past 38 weeks, and there's so many other care providers that do that BS, and the moms all say, oh yeah, that sounds normal. You're just going to keep falling into those traps. If you're not in the right environment and you don't know how to create that right environment for yourself in your birth, you don't have that safe space, you don't feel safe and comfortable to share, you don't feel comfortable enough to have people give you a little bit of information that maybe might cause you to feel a little bit uncomfortable, but otherwise it's going to help you grow. If you don't have the right soil to plant the seed, to grow the flower, it's just going to die, right? So you need to make sure that you have that right environment, the right facilitators. You don't want admins that are going to censor every single thing. Not helpful. Don't want admins who happen to be OBs who prefer you to just do what they want you to do. Nuh-uh, not a good idea. You don't want admins who happen to just want to sell baby gear and therefore they don't want any controversial topics like telling a mom that this VBAC is possible and she doesn't have to have a C-section, or to say no to that induction. You don't want that. You want the right facilitators, the ones that are actually going to support the right information coming in. And you need to have those moms who are so compassionate, who have had the experiences that you want to have, who are going to help you do it, or the moms who maybe regret that they didn't get that, but they've now learned more, and they want to pass that information on to you so that you can go and get that. Okay? So go and find the right mom groups. And if you do have questions, if you want to know some good ones, just send me a message. Comment below. Say, I'd like to know the mom groups, and I will reach out to you. I'll tell you some of my best ones, some of my favorite ones from childbirth educators and doulas, and then we can hang out together. All right? I'll talk to you soon. Bye.